Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Seaman Grace McCarter. This evening, we warmly welcome Commodore Rene Valletta, United Kingdom Royal Navy, and the accompanying delegation, and Mr Dennis Lyons, representing the Naval Association of Australia, ACT section. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Trinity Anglican School from White Rock in Queensland. For those that are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. For those able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Telegraphist Adolf Heinrich Gerhard Rippen. Adolf Rippen was born on the 28th of April 1919 in Fremantle, Western Australia, the son of Peter Rippen, a naturalised British citizen of German descent, and his wife, Hannah. As a member of the Royal Australian Naval Reserve, Rippen was mobilised for duty in September 1939, shortly after the announcement of the war. He was first posted to HMAS Cerberus, the Navy's initial training base on Western Port Bay, southeast of Melbourne, where he trained as a telegraphist. In January 1940, Rippen transferred to minesweeper SS Yuki, then based in Newcastle. Rippen was reported as having socially withdrawn from Yuki's other crew. They had taken offence and questioned whether Rippen should be employed in communications, given his German heritage. Officers on board Yuki, however, reported that Rippen's work was all that could be desired and that nothing of an adverse nature is known of him. They identified bullying, including Rippen being given the nickname Ribbentrop, as the cause of his reluctance to engage. Suspicion of Rippen's German heritage continued even after his death. In March 1942, a woman wrote a letter to the Military Intelligence Department in Sydney about meeting Rippen's uncle, described as a typical German. The letter writer also had concerns about Rippen having lived near the Intelligence Department and being in the Royal Australian Navy. The fact that his parents are German, is it right that he should be in a wireless station at all? Rippen left Yuki in May, and after a period at Cerberus, joined the crew of HMAS Sydney in August. In November 1941, Sydney escorted the troop ship Zealandia north to Sunda Strait, where she was to be relieved by the British cruiser HMS Durban for the last leg of Zealandia's passage to Singapore. Many of Sydney's crew viewed this work as being a milk run compared with the high tempo of operations in the Mediterranean, where Sydney had achieved successes in actions against Italian ships, most famously the Bartolomeo Colleoni. The voyage passed without incident, and Sydney was returning from Sunda, south along the coast of Western Australia. Then, on the afternoon of the 19th of November, she sighted what appeared to be a merchant vessel some 200 kilometres west of Shark Bay. The ship was in fact the German raider Cormoran, disguised as a Dutch merchant ship, which had broadcasted a false cry for help. Attempting to establish the identity of the vessel, Sydney drew almost abeam of Cormoran at a very close range, keeping her main armament trained on the mysterious ship. When concealing its identity was no longer possible, Cormoran revealed her colours and opened fire. Sydney's guns returned fire, with her first full salvo passing over Cormoran without damage. Cormoran immediately scored its first hits on Sydney, with 2 salvos hitting her bridge and midship section. Sydney's 2 forward turrets were quickly put out of action, but her aft turret engaged with fast and accurate fire, hitting Cormoran in the funnel and the engine room. Simultaneously, Cormoran engaged with torpedoes, striking Sydney under her damaged forward turrets. With her bow low in the water, Sydney turned towards Cormoran as though attempting to ram. The top of one of the turrets was blown off and flew overboard before the cruiser passed under Cormoran's stern on a southerly heading. Cormoran, now on fire in the engine room and lacking propulsion, continued to engage Sydney until out of range. Sydney, crippled and on fire from the bridge, steamed slowly to the south. Both ships had been dealt mortal blows and sank during the evening. Survivors from the Cormoran were eventually rescued and interned. none of Sydney's complement of 42 officers and 603 ratings survived. Adolf Rippen was 22 years old. With no grave but the sea, today his name appears on the Plymouth Naval Memorial in England, which commemorates more than 7,000 Commonwealth sailors of the First World War and almost 16,000 of the Second World War. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Telegraphist Adolf Heinrich Gerhard Rippen, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.